Good morning people, and welcome back to another episode of Barham Engines. So here guys, we've got the second cylinder head for the Stag V8, and as you can see we're trying to set it up, doing a bit of a Heath Robinson setup. Oh, and by the way, I hope you don't mind me using the tripod a bit more. It's because usually I've got the camera in one hand and I'm sort of showing you, but I'm not actually showing you how we do things. So trying to use the old tripod a little bit more. On the base of this, obviously the rocker face on this is not parallel to the head surface. So what we have to do is we've got to use the jacks on the back, parallels on the front with shims, and use the height gauge here to get it basically parallel at the top, so we can just give it a reface. So what I'm having to do is find anywhere I can, now I've got it set up roughly with the height gauge, find anywhere I can to clamp the thing down basically. Well, that ain't going to work. So I think what we'll do is we'll go back out here, as long as it does the job. So we've done both sides. If we just nip it down now, evenly. I know a lot of you are going to be saying out there, because you've said it before, why don't you clock the top off the mill? And the reason is because if this touches all the way round, we could clock it, not a problem. But if this touches all the way round, then there's no need to. So that's the reason I don't. And there we go guys, we've set up as best we can, and you can see on the first cut that is cutting nicely. It's slightly lower on the back edge, very slightly, but I think that's more because it has been blowing on the back edge. So we'll see what this cleans out. This is only a 3 thou cut anyway, so we're obviously going to need another cut. All set up, Heath Robinson styly. Right, the pistons for the Golf R engine. In the last video I said that we've got to take off the 7 thou that is protruding from the piston to the block face, plus another 15 thou to give us our 40 thou, or 1 mil for the metric heads, of clearance between the piston at TDC and the cylinder head when the gasket is fully compressed. Clamped it up, as you can see, on our mill. Now what we do is we use 2 gudgeon pins, 1 in either side. The reason we can't do this in the lathe is because it is so narrow on the skirt here, we can't put it in the free draw chuck, so we're not going to do it that way. Better on here. So what we do is a pin in either side, just clamp it down lightly, evenly, and then we're just going to run our milling cutter over and take 22 thou off the top of it. Then we're going to deburr the edge, deburr the valve pockets, and jobs are good un. Now I did notice from the last video in the comments, someone did say, what about your piston to valve clearance? We are obviously going to check that, but these come with we know on the original Golf Rs that there is more than enough clearance anyway with the cams we're running, and these are a deeper cutout anyway, so there's plenty of clearance. And on the exhaust side, you don't need them because there's plenty of clearance. So yeah, we're obviously going to check that guys, but we're pretty convinced that there is plenty of clearance there. Wrap our cutter over. Now to wrap it over, I haven't showed you this, I didn't show you this on the last one. So obviously this is the directional feed of the bed. Left is for left, right is for right. So if we put it into a specific feed, we pull up this lever here, that does rapid the table over, okay? This is your feed for in and out. So down is feeding the bed in, and up is to feed the bed out, okay? So down to go in, pull the lever in and rapid it in, just so the cutter is over the top of the piston. Then here we've got our rapid up and down for the bed. So up, and then obviously down, okay? So we want to go up until it's near enough there. Then what I do is I just put this on the 0, and then ensuring that We've obviously got 3 cutters in here, so ensure one is over the flat there. We take the lock off, we pull this down, pull this lever down and just touch it on, lock that up, then we come off the 0, and we know when we fire that cutter up now, that's not going to touch until we wind down to pretty much the 0. So we know now when we get to the 0 that has just started touching, and it's taking next to no cut off there, okay? Making sure that we don't hit one of the clamps here, because you can see that the clamps are higher than the piston. So first of all, we're going to go and put a 10th thou cut, and off we go. And then what I do is feed the bed up and then stop this one with the feeder down. So we're basically almost going around in a circle here. Then we go back in the other direction. And then we stop the other feed. And we bring that other feed back. It's a little bit like patting your stomach and rubbing your head, this. And then what I do is get the tool off the job. So you can see there, if we take another 20 thou off there, sorry, another 10 thou off there, feed in, and do the same again. Right everyone, thumbnail and title time. So, just very quickly, looking around the workshop, extremely busy, plenty of engines going on all over the place, and we've got a story to sort of tell about all of them really. But the thumbnail and title is all about a 3.4 Jag XK engine that is going in a very nice C-type replica. Now, we did this engine last year, we were doing it probably about a year ago, but he actually picked it up in the beginning of November. Now, the title on today's video is actually what he sent me via email on Sunday. So as you can imagine, he wasn't very happy. So the story with this engine, bit of background, it came to us, and apparently, if I'm right, because we've done a few of these Jags lately, not the 3.4, mainly the 4.2s, but it came to us and the engine had already been done, but I think there was problems with it, or he wanted us to strip it and check it, etc. And when we did, there was issues with the bores, a couple of bores, so we ended up having to go right through the head, as you do with these old Jags. So we went through the head, did the guides, obviously did the clearances, valves, seats. We put the bucket housing retainer kit in, so that is the kit that holds the bucket housings down, because they have a tendency to come loose in the Jags. They rise up into the camshafts and all hell breaks loose. We rebored it. It had been rebored before, so we had to take it out to plus 60. Obviously face the block, new bearings. Now on these Jags, we don't mess about. It is the top quality parts, you know, there's a lot of money's worth of bits went into this engine, as do all of the Jags. So it was top quality parts. We went absolutely right through it. It looked the absolute business. So he was more than happy with it. Now, the car he's building or built is a C-type replica, down to the T. Absolutely beautiful work of art. I'm looking forward to seeing it actually. But he's finally got the engine in the last couple of weeks. He said it's a hell of a game getting the engine in and out of that thing. He's fired it up. They run it for a bit. I think he said he's run it overall about 20 minutes. He said, but the problem is, it sounds sweet as a nut. There's no nasty rattles or knocks or anything like that. It sounds lovely. but it smokes. And he says, when I say smoke, he said after about 15, 20 seconds of it running, it fills the workshop full of smoke. Now, he says it's blue smoke, which seems very strange to me. He's took all the plugs out. It's wet all across the board. He's done compression tests and we're up around, sort of around 140, 145, which two of them are very slightly down, but obviously it's done no miles. It needs to bed in. So it's slightly low at the moment, but it's obviously going to pick up once the rings bed in. Now, usually with symptoms like that, guys, I mean, you've got to bear in mind, these engines, when they come in, before they come into us, they're tired as hell. The rings are absolutely shot. There could be a ton of bore wear. The guides are like a prick in a bucket, but they still don't smoke like this. So first thing when we get symptoms like this, what's the breather system like? So I've spoke to him over the phone. Obviously he sent me that email Sunday, which I responded straight away to at the weekend, mind. So he was more than happy with that. If it's rings, it's sort of, it probably will smoke, but usually it doesn't smoke that much, and not all the way across the board. It's, you usually find that one cylinder will be bad. You might get an iffy ring, I don't know. The guides have all been done, so we sort of eliminated that, and usually with the guides it's on the overrun or something like that. So to smoke like it is straight away whilst idling, well, after about 20 seconds, seems a bit odd to me. Now, I've spoke to 2 Jaguar specialists, both of which have built a lot of Jaguars in the past, and both of them say that's a bit strange. They've never really had that. And one of them said I would be checking the pressure relief valve and make sure there's not too much oil. Take the sump off if needs be, and check the scavenge pipe, etc. The other one said that the first thing he'd be checking is if it's got an automatic choke, unplug that, because some customers may think it's blue, but it may be fuel or something, and he'd be looking into the carburettor setup. So, but both of them said I wouldn't go stripping the engine yet because I doubt very much it's an engine issue. I've got the customer to check the breather, and he said that that's absolutely fine, but he's going to go away, take the filter housing off, check the relief spring and what have you. But it was basically, guys, the reason I'm putting it in a video is if there's any Jag experts out there and you've come across this before we start taking the engine to bits, please feel free to put down in the comments what you think it could be. But yeah, filling the workshop with smoke at this stage. John and I are going to take a trip down there Monday and have a look for ourselves and see what we can see. As I say, we've done a compression test. We're going to do a cylinder leakage test and yeah, see what we find. But very odd. As I say, runs sweet as a nut, but you'd have to have some fairly bad ring issue for it to do that across the board, I would say. But yeah, any help is appreciated, guys. So the Golf R head is on the mill now, and we're just refacing it. That is literally a 3 thou cut, and it looks to me like there hasn't been any issues at all with the head gasket, so this should clean perfect at that. Obviously the seats are cut. Once this is done, we can get all that head put back together and ready to be put onto the block, which leads us over to the block. So no piston rings, no circlips, anything like that. We've just literally dummied a piston onto the rod and put it down the hole with the crank at TDC. And as you can see there now, that piston is very, very slightly lower than the block. We've measured that, and that is 15 thou average, which is absolutely perfect. 25 thou overall thickness once it's clamped. Along with the 15 thou, it's 40 thou or 1 mil, which is exactly what we need with these com rods. So more than happy with that. Done the other 3. So the next step, we'll get this piston out, get the rings back on there, put all these pistons onto the com rods, and then we can load these in there, turn it over, and get the big ends torqued up. As you can see, the pistons and rods are all in. All we've got to do is torque these big end caps up. We've done the mains in the last video, just got to do the big ends, and they torque down to 45 degrees. They are an ARP 2000 bolt. They come with these con rods, which are the Bridgeway, so there isn't a torque setting for these ARPs. So the way we have to find those is to go onto the ARP website. First of all, we've got our Zeus book here. This is a sort of old-fashioned way of doing it. What we do is we take a bolt out, we measure the threads across the actual thread, about 0.370 in imperial it measures. So if we revert to our Zeus book, this is a Zeus book that everyone has from college, and if we have a look here at about 370-ish, 375, it's 3/8. So that's a 3/8 thread on that bolt. It's about 1.5 inches long from the base underneath here, this collar, to the end of the stud. So what we do is we go over to the ARP website and we have a look at the 3/8 thread, the 1.5 long, and you can see it's 45 foot-pounds. So we'll set the torque wrench up in a minute to 45 foot-pounds and get those torqued. Then we'll turn it over and we have got some nice head studs, ARP head studs, to go in the block. We put those in and we torque those down, the same as the mains. We torque them down to about 15 foot-pound. Right, cylinder head. As you can see, I've removed the valve stem seals, so all I've got to do on this head now is fit the valve stem seals, oil the valves up. You can see they're all blasted and faced nicely. We've got to put those in, put the springs and retainers in and the collets in, and this head is all complete. So stem seals, I don't think I've ever showed you how we fit stem seals. Probably many of you in the comments are going to say that ain't how you do it, but it's how we do it. So how we remove them is, what I do is I get a nice sharp screwdriver. This is our purpose ground screwdriver we use to get the valve stem seals off, and what I do is I get them down the side of the old stem seal, hit them with a hammer gently, and it basically opens that stem seal up. Then I use our proper stem seal removing tool, and it just makes it easier to pull them off. Now once they're done, we have got a toolbox right down in the corner there full of old sockets and what have you. So this is our valve seal, stem seal application. So we find a socket basically that fits nicely over the top of the stem seal like that, and that holds it in nicely with the spring, and it doesn't drop out when you put it into the head. You can see I've put all these in here now. All I've got to do is just put one more in. So I'll try and do this with one hand. So you just place it on top there, tapping down, just so it's square, and you can see that is nicely square on there now. Now that is how we fit those. So next thing, guys, we'll get all these valves into this cylinder head, oiled up. We'll turn the block over and get those studs in. Then we can put the head on, torque it down, and this engine is pretty much done then, because that's all we've got. We haven't got to time anything else up. Job's a good one. Well, once again, guys, thanks ever so much for watching this episode. Have a great weekend. It is now Friday. The weather is absolutely fantastic, although it looks a bit rainy at the weekend, but hot again next week. But until Monday's video, you take care and we'll see you then. Cheers, guys.